My company is called Altogether Creative, and well, I'm actually in the throes of reconstructing what I'm going to do. But traditionally, I've come from the creative side of design, packaging, printing, publications, and the online environment, including mainly content and what have you, and also a bit of photography, film, etc. But I'm looking at potentially changing that into more my passion, which is outdoor recreation and cycling. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, well, I'll just introduce myself a little bit. So I'm Jen Weller, and I'm the founder of CreativeWorks. So over the course of my career, I've always been propelled by that question, what if, And I have this innate curiosity, and it's driven me to assist businesses, like readying them for future risks, but also for those golden opportunities that might come up. So, oops, I've just lost you from the screen. uh, you've disappeared from the screen. Anyway, I'll keep talking, but I can't see you anymore. So,
Oh.
not sure why that's happened. It must have happened when I've changed the slide. Anyway, some of the things that I've done is I've invented the first low alcohol beer in Australia. I've worked on muesli bars, roll ups, the snack. And so, starting my professional path as a microbiologist, I've had the privilege of holding several pivotal positions like technical manager of SPC, research and development manager at Uncle Toby's, and delving into things like international marketing research and consumer sciences and insights for Goodman Fielder. But leadership's been a calling for me. No, I ran a large building company for quite a few years where I steered the business to accolade worthy heights. But my greatest joy really comes from sharing insights and learning those aha moments with fellow innovators. So if I can assist you in navigating your journey with fewer detours than I've encountered, then that's a day well spent for me. So my mission's always been to be transformative, to change our region one person at a time. So thank you for having me, and I'm excited to dig deeper into the world of managing change with you, and particularly using strategic creativity. So my game plan is today we'll look at the changing face of business, because it absolutely is changing, the essence of strategic creativity, and we'll look at a model that can help you manage change effectively, but also the downfalls of that model for solo traders and small businesses. But you can actually use those insights to make actionable strategies from it. And then any questions that you've got, how does that sound?
Interesting.
But again, I wish I could see you. I don't know why I can't see you. It's very frustrating. Anyway, so I'll just keep going, but keep talking in case
Jen, can you see up the top there you've got view and it says change your view?
I haven't got Teams at all. Like Teams has just totally disappeared, and it's not even showing up in my.
I think it might be because you're presenting the.
Yeah, putting the presentation on.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll just carry on. So today's dynamic business environment, the world of small business is undergoing significant transformations. So, some of the things that are changing the landscape is firstly the advent and the rapid growth of artificial intelligence. So, this is proving to be a game changer in small business. So things like limited resources and scale, we can now leverage with some of these AI tools to optimize operations. We can enhance customer experiences. We can have chatbots handling customer service inquiries. We can get analytics from AIs, and they're offering insights that were only once available to really big corporations with large research budgets. Now, us as little businesses, we can get this without a huge expenditure. But of course, while it offers tremendous advantages, it also demands a whole new set of skills and an adaptability mindset. So have you tackled that at all, Sue?
Sorry, what was that?
Have you tackled any AI or looked at any AI?
Yeah, in fact, I just came back from the North America, and I was just talking to a colleague over there, and she was actually using AI for her travel plans, which was very interesting. But yeah, no, I have seen, and honestly, a lot of the bots that are used online now are AI, even though people think it's somebody. So
Yes.
yeah, I am a little bit aware of some of the AI.
Yeah. So I mean the prowess that comes from some of this technology is amazing, but of course we also can't overlook what's happening in the current economic situation. So for many businesses, rising costs are stark reality. So from things like raw materials, shippings, utilities, wages, the expense of doing business is going up and up and up. And these rising costs are eating into our profit margins. They're challenging us as small businesses to innovate, to streamline, and sometimes even to pivot the business models. And it sounds like you're looking at pivoting your business model.
Yeah, look, yeah, I've evolved over the years from, as I mentioned, from all different aspects in the design and production side of things, and now I'm looking at doing that, and part of that is also education and training as well. So part of that is now to do stuff that specifically is my passion, as opposed to doing the design side of it, and the design side will come into it because that's how I will market it.
Yeah, and you can also do design now using DALL-E or some of those other bots that are available. So AI generated design, which can give you some, insights to get started, and then you can go and do your own stuff with that there. It doesn't mean that you leave it as it is, but yeah, there's lots of opportunities out there. But, coupled with costs, we've also got the spectre of rising interest rates, and many businesses rely on loans and credit to finance operations or expansion and innovation. And as interest rates continue to climb, that's another layer of financial strain for us in small business. So it's a delicate balance, ensuring growth and innovation while we manage our debt responsibly. So to navigate this evolving landscape, small businesses have got to be agile, they've got to be informed, and they've got to be proactive. So embracing technology like AI can offer that competitive edge, but it's equally crucial to have a keen eye on the financial pulse, like anticipate the mitigating costs and interest rates. But people can get really fearful with all of this. But I think in Australia, the future for small business remains bright. In our area, the area that I'm in from the electoral point of view, 87% of businesses are small to medium enterprises or solo enterprises. I hear government and sometimes councils, Chloe, talking about, oh, we've got to get big business in. But actually, the majority of businesses aren't big businesses anymore. They're us, you know? So we need strategic planning, adaptability, and then we can survive and thrive in this ever-changing environment. And interrupt anytime. I'm not precious about that because I can't watch your face. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
mm,
But
Just to let you know, Jen.
I would have to say that, should we introduce that other
Yes.
guy come in?
Yes, I was just going to say, Jen, because you can't see the screen, we've just had a few more participants join. We've got Amy and I think it's Gemma from Nimbo Fork as well.
welcome, welcome, welcome. Tell me a bit about your businesses, Amy and Gemma.
Hi. So I am just starting out my business actually. So in the process of planning. So it's going to be online gift hampers. So Australian made products, natural products. Also going to be doing a percentage of my sales will be going to a percentage of projects that are going within Australia, from environmental, things on the Great Barrier Reef and things like that.
Awesome. So it's a social enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And did you say Gemma? Are you from the same business?
My name's Gemma. Yes, I have a lot of background noise, so I was trying not to speak too much. We are an accommodation and restaurant venue, so I'm basically just looking for some new ideas and broaden the way that we're doing things at the moment.
Excellent. So from an action steps point of view, when it comes to actually making sure that your business is on the cutting edge, one of the questions I would ask you is, do you know who the futurists are in your industry?
Is it for me in particular? Sorry.
Anybody got any ideas? I can't see you, so unfortunately that's very frustrating.
Well, I would have thought the Atlantean boys are futurists for this country.
Yep. And so there are a bunch of futurists out there, and there's one down the bottom there from Forbes, which is about accommodation and the future of accommodation. So, because Chloe did give me some heads up on some of the people that might actually be here today. And so there's some information in there. There's also one from McCrindle around the factors disrupting the future of education and how education works. There's one there on hospitality and trends and glimpses into the future. And if you just go and Google some of these things, you will find them. And so what you really need to do is follow some of these people, sign up to their newsletters, so that when you come to develop your strategic plan, and I do hope that you all will have some form of strategic or business plan, because you know that old saying, if you don't plan, you plan to fail, or failing to plan is planning to fail. And so use that information when developing your strategic plan. And so spend time using creativity techniques to develop your innovative ideas. So many people go, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And then they'll spend hours and hours looking at, how much money it's going to cost and what date I'm going to do it on. But they haven't actually really explored the opportunities in detail to find out whether actually what they're talking about doing is going to be useful in the next 12 months. I mean, I unfortunately have had the opportunity to work with people who have owned video stores, bookstores, and online and retail shopping for clothing, where they did not anticipate that their sales were going to disappear almost overnight. And so you really need to be on the forefront of what's coming and what's happening, and you can only do that if you look to the futurists, if you spend time thinking about what does this mean for my business. And I know that's tricky because many of us are either solo or we've only got one or two, and so to find time to actually work on the business can be very tricky. But you really need to get that helicopter view and to make sure that your business is going to continue to go and grow, particularly if you want to sometime, sell it on so that you can retire on that. So this is my action steps for you. If you don't know who the futurists are, find out who they are. If you don't have a strategic plan or a business plan that uses this information, then start working on one. If you don't know what sort of creativity techniques are out there, then Google them. They're really easy to find, and some of them are very simple to do. Now, people say to me, I'm not very creative. Well, if you say you're not very creative, then guess what? You're not. Because the research says if you think you're creative, you are. If you think you're not, you're not. And using creativity techniques to develop innovative ideas are something that you can develop. So it's practice. So you don't sort of read a book about how to play the piano and then think you can play the piano. No, you have to actually put those hours into practice. And as you start using some creativity techniques, this will help you to develop that creativity and that thinking. And then people say, I don't need that, just think about it, it's fine. Well, sorry. What happens is the way your brain works is that it forms these byways and pathways. And so you will always go down the same connections unless you use a methodology to jump your thinking out of that space. And the best way is to be really uncomfortable, because outside of the comfort zone is the learning and the innovation zone. So if you're doing some of these techniques and they feel uncomfortable and they feel weird, yay, they're working, and that's where you're likely to come up with some great ideas. So again, because I can't see you, jump in. Any comments, questions around that?
Yeah, the one, another point that I specifically came on here for, I understand the creativity stuff of it. It is also it is also looking at the financial side of it, in terms of how to become creative about earning dollars. And where do you go for that?
Well, the same techniques apply. So looking at what is out there in your field, what sort of things are out there. So for example, some of those things we talked about earlier about AI, they can save you money. And so can I set them up so they save me time, they save me money? What other things am I doing that I might do differently? So, oftentimes people in businesses waste money because they don't have processes, they don't have systems, they don't have these things documented, they don't do them the same way, they don't look at suppliers, getting into buying groups, or there's lots of ideas that you can get, that you can test out, again, by thinking about these techniques and simply brainstorming ideas. And if you're a sole trader, then get with a mentor, a friend, go to the Chamber of Commerce, go talk to some people at the council and ask them if they'll join you in a brainstorming session. And so that you can get ideas from elsewhere. Even friends and family can come up with some amazing ideas. Some of the best ideas I've ever had, in fact, one of the best ideas I ever had actually came from the cleaner of the laboratory that we were working in, because we invited them along to have a discussion about some ideas for what new products might be out there. So the same applies, whether you're trying to reduce your costs or do things more efficiently, or whether you're trying to come up with a whole new business, the same principles apply.
Yeah, I was specifically looking at pricing and how to price something that's new and innovative.
Yeah, and so to do something like that, you actually need to do some research. And so we will get to that, but you need to actually ask people what they would pay for it. And so there are options that you can use in things like SurveyMonkey. I think there's another one out there now that's a free one. With SurveyMonkey, if you want more than a few, you've actually got to pay for them.
Yeah.
But you can ask people, you can provide different scenarios. So, I have X and Y and A and B, and it costs this much, or I've got B and Y and X and it costs this much, or I've got B and X and it costs this much. Which one would you prefer and why? So that you look at different models and then you can figure out what's the ideal position. But you actually have to go and ask your customers. And so, we can perhaps have a catch up on that if you want to get some ideas. Feel we can perhaps have a chat about that at another time, just you and I.
Yep.
So there's this cute little story, and you might think, I don't quite, I don't quite get this, but I've used this a lot. And there are two caterpillars, they're having a chat, and one caterpillar turns to the other as he sees a butterfly float past. You'll never get me up on those butterfly things. And when I've told this story, people always get it. Oh, yeah, okay, it's about resistance to change. But there's also a major paradox in this story that I found as well. So when I was telling the story, for me, the answer is, oh, yes, there's resistance to change. We all resist change. Why do we resist change? And what I found out from that is that it's dangerous to think that you know the answer. And that's the duh. Because when I asked a room full of people to talk about the meaning of this story, and in China, I was shocked by the many answers I got, since most were not about my answers, but they were actually about their perceptions. So, how many times do we limit our perception and our thinking because we think we know the answer, and thus we don't even think of different possibilities? Now, when you're working in a small business and you're busy and you're flat chat and you're trying to make things work, sometimes we think we know the answer. And I've seen this as a very common trait when I've been working with small to medium enterprises. And not just small to medium enterprises, I'd have to say, but it works pretty well with government and educational institutions as well. So, I think this is really important and deserving of reflection and analysis. When we think we know the answer, we generally self-limit any considerations of other possibilities, and we limit our thinking. When in fact we could generate other ideas and we might have most interesting outcomes. And all of us have got the capability to generate ideas and possibilities. We just need to use those simple tools and hopefully have some people around us. I think, most of us would probably agree that being a butterfly, is a higher existence than remaining a caterpillar, because we get a helicopter view. And so we need to be really careful that we think we know the answers. My challenge to you is question everything. Question everything. Oh, we do it this way because. Because why? Ask yourself why 5 times, and then use some creativity techniques to think if you can look outside of that. Why would you do things differently? Sometimes it's really amazing just to ask a child, what would you do in this situation? And some 13-year-olds have given me some better insight than I've got from some incredible business people. And so, do we know what to change, and do we know when to change? So for some of us, and some of the small businesses that I've worked with before COVID and after COVID, some before COVID didn't want to change. When COVID came along, guess what? They had no choice. It was change or die. Some died, some changed. So, we often resist change and risk, but change is inevitable. It's going to occur, and we can choose to be active and manage the process, or we can suffer the stresses that come with us. So it's easier for butterflies to develop perspectives on things from that helicopter point of view. So, we need to be engaged and involved in what's happening to us rather than letting things get done to us. And the people that don't want to change are probably not the people that are here on this call, I would have to say. But I've worked a lot with small businesses where they say, we're not making enough money, we need to do this, we need to do that. Come in and tell me what to do. So you go in, you help them to develop a strategic plan, you work with all their staff, you come up with an action plan, and then you come back and say, how's it going? And they say, oh, it didn't work. God, why didn't it work? Did you do the action plan? Oh, no, that doesn't work for us. But why did you spend all that time and money talking about this, saying, yes, this is what I want to do, developing an action plan, and then leave it on the shelf? So, no, even sometimes we think we're going to change, but then we actually don't. And so it can be our biases limit our vision. And so, again, that thinking we know the answer. So sometimes your industry knowledge can hold you back. If you've been in an industry for a long time, you might think you know it all, or you might have staff in that position. You know, if you ever come into a business where you've got that one person been there for 25 years, you know, when you say, why don't we do this? They go, oh, no, that'll never work. Why don't we do that? Oh, no, we did that 20 years ago. That doesn't work. You know, so there are people like that around. So, you know, do you stop listening when someone less experienced in an area starts talking? Because actually, you know, they may have new ideas, they may have a different approach. So, how do you implement change in your business? Well, as I mentioned, you really need the strategic thinking first and then the planning. So, if I was going to add time zones to this, I'd like to see you spending 80% of your time thinking and then 20% of your time planning. The problem is that many businesses do it the other way around, or they look in the rear vision mirror, add 20%, and that's next year's plan. So look at what the futurists are doing, spend some time thinking, allow yourself time between the thinking sessions, because your subconscious brain is 30,000 times more powerful than your conscious brain. And it's got all this stuff stored that can't fit in your conscious brain. So it does a whole lot of work for you while you're sleeping, cleaning, hanging out the clothes or whatever, and then it'll pop it into your mind later. So you need a plan and use strategic creativity to do that. And so strategic creativity combines structured planning with innovative thinking. And so it enables you to solve problems, explore new opportunities. And the way you go about it is, what's your challenge or your opportunity? Identify it. Then use some of the tools like a SWOT analysis or Porter's 5 forces. Find out what's going on inside and outside of your business. Then Sue, research and data collect. No, understand the current landscape. Look at market trends, competitors, consumer behaviours. Incorporate both qualitative, so interviews or focus groups, quantitative data, analytics or surveys. And again, some people say to me, oh, I'm a small business, I don't have time to do that. Well, even in a cafe, you can stick a little questionnaire on the table with a pencil, and then when they hand it in, you know, they can have a free coffee or something. You can get this information without it being a big deal. You just need to think outside the square. Then get your group together. If you've got staff, bring the staff in, or see if you can engage a diverse group. Get some customers, get some suppliers, ask them to come, buy them lunch, and get them to work with you on working on some of the techniques. You can use 6 thinking hats, you can use Scamper, you can use all sorts of out of the box thinking techniques. And then after you've done that, now you need to start thinking about filtering, categorizing the ideas based on feasibility, potential impact, align with business goals, and then rank those ideas. Don't chuck anything out. First off, even if you think that looks a bit weird, you know, sometimes you can actually take something that looks a bit weird and make it actually work. So, you know, with roll-ups, what I wanted to achieve with roll-ups was fruit that kids would eat. No? And so we then looked at various technologies. So we went and visited all sorts of industries. And what we saw in a plastics industry was them extruding plastic sheets. And so we thought, what if we could turn fruit into a stretchy plastic sheet that kids could play with and chew on? And yes, when we did it, it was 98% fruit, 2% starch. But, you know, to try and do that, we had to suspend all of our judgment. So rank your ideas, use some sort of matrix, you know, impact versus effort. Sometimes things are too much effort for the amount that you'll make, or so do that. Then prototype and test if you can. So, you know, for your new business, Sue, you might want to consider developing a minimum viable product and get some people to try it out. No, so test the solution if you can in a controlled environment or small segment and gather your market feedback, and then refine based on that information. Then once you've done that refinement, you can then roll it out on a larger scale, monitor and evaluate, get your feedback loops, and then continuously learn and adapt as you go along. So if you've got staff, like I've said, include them in the process of developing ideas, vision, and that action plan is really important. So they're far more vested if they've had a hand in the development. You know, if the idea comes from you, you're more likely to want to push it and make it happen. So, and the outcome of your strategic thinking, your ideation, your planning then is an action plan, and it must be collaborative. Unless you're a sole trader, then you'll need to talk to yourself. But even so, you're convincing yourself as you go through. So take the team through the process with you. It means they understand the issues the business faces as well. Because when people try to change, it often fails. And there are lots of pieces of research that suggest change plans fail. And, in the early days of product development, there was lots of pieces of research that suggested 80% of new products failed. At Uncle Toby's, when I was there in research and development, 80% of our products succeeded. We did things differently. And so, why do they fail? Well, they fail because the focus is on inanimate objects. New piece of software, new piece of equipment, new process, new product. But actually, success is based on the people who must make those changes. And, the ones that actually have to work with the new whatever you've got. If the people aren't fully supporting and educated, then the results are going to disappoint you. So one of the models that you can use is this model called the ADKAR model. And so to be able to make change, you must change each individual one at a time, unfortunately. And so ADKAR is obviously an acronym, and it represents 5 milestones or outcomes an individual must achieve to successfully make change happen. You must create awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and then you need reinforcement. So when you apply this to change, this model can allow you to focus your activities on what will drive individual change, and then that will produce business-wide results. Individual change, collective change to system change. I'm hoping that's making sense.
Yep.
And so the first stage obviously is the awareness. Why do we need to change? And so here, you as the business leader, you need to cast a vision of what the world looks like post-change. So why are we doing this? What's the world going to look like once we make this? At the same time, you need to build a burning bridge to say why you can't go back. So if you don't build that burning bridge and say why this isn't working now and why we need to change it, then our natural inclination will be to go back. So cast the vision of what the world looks like post-change and then build that burning bridge as to why we don't want to go back. And desire is really important. So, it's important to make sure that you've got that compelling vision and the burning bridge, because that will help create the desire to engage and participate in the change. So you need to talk to people about their concerns, enabling them to be part of the process, and that helps to create the desire. So each person's going to find their own motivation. You can't actually motivate people. You can only provide them with the opportunity to be motivated. And if you support them through the process, they can. But the most important thing driving desire is what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this? How is this going to make my job easier, better, faster, more fulfilling? What is in it for me? And if you're a sole trader, what's going to be in it for you to make this change? And to do this thinking yourself, take yourself through these steps and think carefully about, what does this mean? How will this look? Because I don't know about in the others you, but as a sole trader, sometimes, you can really lose your mojo. But if you write these things down and you've done this thinking, then you can go back to what you've written down and you can remind yourself of why you're doing these 12 hours a day and 7 days a week to get through this change, to get a better business. Then you've got the knowledge. And knowledge is about how to change. And so, I can tell you that if you haven't created the first two, then there's a real problem with actually getting people to move forward. So I was working with one company where they brought in a new general manager. The general manager decided they needed a CRM, a customer relationship database, to manage the customers. And so they went and researched and they found one that they liked and they bought it. And then they had a meeting and said, "Hi, everyone, this is what we've bought. We've bought this CRM. And next week, they're coming up to train you on how to use it." And then they went, "Oh, but does it talk to this piece of software? Can it link with that piece of software? Does it ask this question? Because that's the question I really need to know. Can it follow up this follow-up for me?" And then they came and did the training and they didn't use the software. So she went, okay, they're not using the software. They're not trained enough. I'll do another lot of training. So she did another lot of training. They're still not using the software. And so she says, "Why aren't you using the software?" And they said, "Oh, it doesn't connect to all these other pieces of software that we've got. And so it's too hard to work with." So then she employed someone to come in and write bits of kit that would connect to these other pieces of software. And eventually, the software that she bought for a CRM cost $100,000. She'd spent $500,000 on training and trying to link up all the other pieces of software rather than just dumping it, asking them what they needed and finding something that would have done the job for the whole team. It was a very expensive exercise for that business. So you've got to have awareness and desire before you begin training. Otherwise, that investment is just going to be wasted. That making sense?
Yep.
Good. And so then you've got the ability, so one of the things I did for CSU was I developed workplace learning programs. So because the students know the theory, but they need to learn how to apply that in the real world of business. So we would get them to go out and work with businesses and they would pre-plan what theory they would use, then they would do it, and then they would write up afterwards. So, can you put your knowledge into practice? Just because you know how to do something doesn't mean you can actually do it. And sometimes we might need coaching when implementing new behaviors. And so it needs to be a safe place, so they can have hands-on coaching with feedback. They're allowed to make mistakes. And processes and procedures can assist this, not just for us that have got staff, but also ourselves as sole traders. When we're trying to do something different, to write down the steps that we're taking to get that so we can look back at it can be really, really helpful and really useful. And then finally, reinforcement. So you need to keep the change in place. As I've said before, our brains are wired for habit. So we are psychologically programmed to revert to our old habits. And when reinforcement's not in place, we see employees using workarounds, or we may do that ourselves and relying on the old approach instead of the new. So you need to monitor the new processes. And for those of us who are sole traders, having a buddy who might hold us accountable to our goals can be really helpful. And finally, celebrate success. if you don't celebrate success, then it's all been for nothing. So you need to be able to reward individuals or yourself for success. And so it doesn't have to be big things. It could be a morning tea. It could be allowing yourself to go out for coffee with a friend during a work day, or, it doesn't have to be massive. It could be giving staff a ticket to the theatre, or could simply be standing up in a team meeting and saying, look how well Sue's done. She's done a fantastic job here. And, congratulations on doing that. In fact, sometimes that kind of recognition actually has a greater motivating factor than giving people money, because people will work towards a goal to get the money, and when it's done, it's gone. Whereas when you give people recognition, it can continue to work for some time. And leadership is required, obviously, so it must be done in the order to be successful. And so you must be able to cast that vision. You must be able to allow staff to be part of the process where possible. You must have a plan and SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time frame. You must be able to communicate well and often. You must be able to coach and encourage. You must be able to deal with conflict in a positive way, because most of us don't like conflict. Is there anyone there who likes conflict? Most of us don't like conflict. But if conflict is happening, the problems are bubbling to the surface, which is good, because then you can actually deal with them in a positive way and work through them. Otherwise, you might find that your best staff member suddenly ups and leaves, and you've got no idea why, because the conflict was never brought to the surface or discussed. So that means communicate with people often and well. Have the emotional intelligence and the understanding of the different personalities that are in your business. Different personalities need to be dealt with in different ways. So if there's someone who's very choleric or very sanguine, they'll like the big picture. They'll want to know, what the story is. If you've got someone who's very facts and figures oriented, they'll want time to think about things. They'll want all the detail to understand. And so you need to present these things differently to different people. And you must be prepared to take the time with people and with yourself. So there's a lot of information around this model on Prossi's website, which you can go and have a look at. And you can actually use this assessment model to help you out. And so, as I said, while this model can be beneficial for big businesses and small ones, there are potential pitfalls when implementing it in a small to medium enterprise. Sometimes it can be over formalized. So, as small businesses, we thrive on flexibility, quick decision making, and implementing a structured framework can sometimes be a bit, whoa, we don't want it to be overly bureaucratic or cumbersome. And so how you present this information can be important, because if it comes across as overly bureaucratic, it may already lead to resistance. So, and we can't assume that one size fits all. So in smaller teams, individuals' needs and reactions to change can be more pronounced. And so while this provides a general approach, you need to customize it. So, customize it to your individuals, to your team. If you don't do that, that can be a real pitfall. Lack of dedicated resources can be an issue. If we're government, we can have change managers and dedicated resources, but we may struggle. And so we need to think very carefully about how we're going to assign the time, the people, or the money to actually make sure this happens, and to make sure that it's worth the effort that we're putting in. So if you don't do that, it potentially leads to incomplete or rushed change process, which will ultimately lead to it not working. We can also underestimate the emotional responses. As I said, change fails because of people mostly. So small businesses often have very close-knit teams with deep-rooted company cultures, and change can provoke a really strong emotional reaction. And you need to address that adequately, particularly in that desire and ability stage. Why do we need to do this, and what's in it for you? And then how am I going to help you be able to do this? The other thing that often happens when we've got small businesses is that our communication is informal. And there is a risk then of it being an inconsistent message about change, which can lead to confusion or misinformation. And so, we need to make sure that we have consistent communication. It might be worth putting it in an email or putting it up on the notice board rather than talking with one person here, talking with one person there, talking with one person here. Then those three get together and you've got Chinese whispers. You know how that can happen? So, and again, overlooking reinforcement is really important because we're so busy. We want to just move on to the next thing, making sure that things are reinforced and celebrated. If we don't do that, we could end up with the reverting to old behaviours. The other thing that can happen is we can have limited opportunities for the knowledge in the ability stage because training can cost money. There may not be infrastructure there, but use what's available. If you say you're bringing in a piece of software or an AI or a new product, bring in suppliers to do training for you. Get some of the chambers can help you with training. You bring in the people who are actually providing the materials to do the training for you. So there are various things like the Victorian Chamber of Commerce where you can get access to consultants who can help you for no or minimal cost. And so those things can really help. And the other thing that we might do is assume that we get immediate buy-in. So, you have small, tight teams, and there might be assumption that everyone's willing to immediately buy into the change because of personal loyalties or customer culture. And if you do this, you can overlook genuine concerns or resistance. So you really need to encourage an open dialogue to make sure that you find out exactly what people are thinking. And then they're not just telling the boss what they think the boss wants to hear. And so again, that requires leadership. And the other thing that can happen is this lack of external perspective. New ideas and things can always benefit from an external perspective. So again, use the Chamber of Commerce, use the opportunities that are available to you, mentors, or if you can afford it, to use consultants to help you. So, ADCAR is a valuable tool for change management in small business, but it's essential that you're aware of these pitfalls and that you tailor the approach to the unique characteristics and needs of your small business environment. And that will increase the chance of your change being successful. So in summary, the world is changing fast. Where is your business going to be? 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Today, 10 years is probably maybe not even worth thinking about. What's influencing the change? Do the external and internal analysis, do some quantitative and qualitative research. Make sure your strategic thinking is creative, far-reaching, and use ideation. Strategic planning process needs to involve all staff or yourself and a mentor, to begin any change program. Implement your action plans and use a change management plan. Leadership skills are required, not technical skills. So people get confused there. They may be a great technician, but here you really need your leadership and people skills. And then celebrate success and failing forward. Because if you do this right, you're going to be outside of your comfort zone. When you're outside of your comfort zone, you're in the innovation and learning zone. And there is a risk. Where there is a risk, there's a chance you'll fail. So fail early, fail often, but always fail forward. Pick yourself up, find out what worked, what didn't work, and try again. We see these massive billionaires and things who go broke and bankrupt 10 times over, but again, they step up and they fail forward, they learn, and they reinvent the wheel. So get out into that learning zone and fail forward. Any questions? I don't know, Chloe, whether you can stop sharing so that I might be able to actually see again now and I can answer questions.
Let me see if I can. I think, yeah,
I've
you
got
might
it.
have to.
I did
Perfect.
it. Yeah, I did it. Yeah. Yay. Now I can see you. Any questions?
No questions?
Was it? Did you find?
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead, Susie.
I was only going to ask if you had any suggestions of any AI examples.
So I guess AI depends on what your business is going to be, but where I have been using it is those customer management things, so chatbots on websites, things like that, but also in doing things like working out how you might email a customer. So, go to ChatGPT-4 and tell them, this is what I want to say. This is the kind of people that I've got. Can you draft me an email that would work for that? And so, or, here are all the benefits of what I'm offering. Can you draft me a marketing proposition for that? Or here's what I want to do. Can you draft me a vision? And so it's amazing what it comes back with. You do have to remember that it's only been trained until 2021, and also that any information that you put into that is not yours anymore. So you need to be careful that you're not putting any information into it that you wouldn't want anyone else to see. So, you might have to.
Yeah, sorry, what was that third one that you said?
About using it to write marketing information or to craft it. Craft a vision or a purpose.
Okay, I'm with you. Yeah, okay, yeah, no.
You can also get it to draft goals for you. So here's what I want to achieve. Draft me a goal or a plan for doing that. Or here's what I think I've got. Can you come up with some more creative ideas around that? So it's amazing.
Finances?
Sorry?
Do you know if it works with financial stuff?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yep. So you can say, here's the kind of business I've got. Where do you think we could save money? And just see what it comes back with.
Okay.
You can also use it for managing finances. So a lot of the systems now automated to manage finances. So that can assist you with that. If you're looking for research information, then you can use one called Scite, SCITE _. And so you can go into that and ask it a question and say, what sort of things would I need to do if I wanted to develop my transformational leadership for managing change? And it will give you a story, but it'll also give you papers you can read as well. So if you're into the academic side of it, you can do that.
Okay, might be interesting just to experiment.
I have been fascinated by it. I've been working on it for an education institution, working particularly with Grammarly Edu and Scite. And so Grammarly EDU is designed specific for, and it has a section in it where you can say, draft me an outline for a particular thing, give me a research plan. And so that can really helpful. You could also ask it questions like, here's what I want to know. Here's the product I've got. Can you draft me up a questionnaire that I can use for my customers? There's so many possibilities. And it helps when, when you're facing the blank page kind of thing. So when you're sort of going, oh, I wonder what I should do here? How might I do that? You ask it a question, it comes up with all this stuff, and then you're not facing the blank page anymore. So it helps you have more time to do the thinking and less time to figure out how to do the thinking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've actually seen it in producing artwork. I have a friend who's in online education, and as a by hobby, she's been doing stuff with creating imagery over the last 2 years, and I'm gobsmacked at how the AI has actually learnt as the time has progressed from the original first drawing, and they're mythical drawings, so it's also open to interpretation as well, creatively and visually. So yeah, very fascinating.
Yeah, so the opportunities are enormous in that regard, because you can also say, you're setting up a new business at the moment. You can go into it and say, here's the business, generate me some options for a logo. Or
yeah, except for I'm a designer, so I won't be doing that.
yeah, but you might be surprised at what it comes up with. It might just give you another angle that you hadn't thought about, because you're one brain.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
got lots of brains, and so it might just give you that angle that you hadn't thought about. You just never know what it could do.
I'm going to on that one, because specifically, if you know the process of design and the process of designing logos and the intention of what the company is, often AI, unless you actually put all that information, is not going to come up specifically with a logo that truly reflects the ideals and the principles of that business. So unless you put them in, and obviously you can put them in as well, but yeah, it'll be interesting to do a bit of experimentation on that.
Yeah, so that's called prompt engineering. And you can actually go to LinkedIn Learning or some of those and do some prompt engineering. And the better you are at prompt engineering, the better the results that you will get out of the AI.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's knowing the terminology, because the other thing I was thinking too is potentially on that creative side for small short clips for marketing and advertising and just general content. It would be interesting, and I'm sure that the people at Snowy Valleys Council will probably have the same issue, that sometimes you have a very short window to turn around something and put it up on your socials or your website and what have you, because you have to react to what's actually happening here and now. It could be, Snowy Hydro, falls over because of fire, or I shouldn't say fire, because of Brumbies running through the where they're going to drill the tunnel, and you have to actually come up with a really short, quick, specific clip. And it would be really cool if you could just put that in, a paragraph or two, and it comes out with a storyboard line for a 30-second clip.
And you can do that. You can do that. Do you use AI at all, Chloe?
Sorry, lost my mouse for a second there. Not particularly at work. I have used it in my own personal capacity for sure. Not really something that we're using at council at the moment. We do have, though, Susie, on this topic, we have got another webinar coming up at the end of October, which is about AI. So I can send you the details for that too, because that will take a bit of a deep dive into it. But it's definitely something that is out there and expanding, and I'm sure we'll all be using it more and more.
Yeah. Okay. Just thank you for coming. Yeah. All right. If there's no other questions, I'll let you get back to your day. And yeah, I hope it was useful.
Thanks, Jen. That was great.
Okay.
Great.
See
ya.
ya. Bye.
Bye, Susie.
Bye. Bye.